Hey, Bright Lights, it's Angela. Welcome back to the Space Doctor series on the Architecting channel. I'm an architect who makes thoughtful weekly videos that seek to demystify the science behind design for well-being, something otherwise known as salutogenesis. Now, I've spent my career researching this, so you don't have to. We are going to be using my deck of salutogenesis cards to explore week by week different things that I hope will give you useful, actionable information that you can put into place with your clients or in your own home or within your community. I really am on a mission to inspire everyone to be an advocate for a better built environment because in my years as a practicing architect, that is one thing that I've seen come through loud and clear. Our space has a huge effect on our well-being. We don't talk about this enough. We don't really look at the specific reasons why or the elements that can make a difference. And so you're going to want to like and subscribe to this channel because I'm saying the things you're not going to hear anywhere else. And to do this, we use my deck of cards, which is divided into two sections. The first section is called Fundamental Concepts with the black edge. This deals with the concepts of what constitutes well-being. And then we're going to look at what my research has shown to be 5 fundamental theories that I call the aspects of salutogenesis. Now, I'm also a feng shui practitioner, as I know you've heard me say before, and I love how the science is supporting what feng shui practitioners have known for centuries. So to make this a little bit more interconnected and help maybe give a better association and meaning, I've also associated each of the 5 aspects with one of the 5 elements in feng shui. So as I draw the cards, I will explain not only what the theories are that the card represents, but also why they're associated with that particular element. So if you are ready, let's get started. Now, the first card that I drew from the fundamental concepts of the deck is socioeconomic. Now, this is associated with something we call the exposome. The exposome has 2 parts. It has a socioeconomic component, which is what this card represents, but it also has an environmental component. And exposome is really just a term for the soup with which you will that we're all immersed in, everything we are exposed to as an individual. So when we take a look at this card, we can see this person who is sort of being impacted by all the other people that she encounters in her day. What kind of things show up when we take a look at the socioeconomic exposome? Those are things like how much education do we have? What is the quality and strength of the social relationships that we have? How stable are our finances? Do we have reliable housing, reliable transportation? All of those kinds of things make up the socioeconomic exposome. You're going to have fewer resources, more stress in your life, and it's just going to make it more difficult as you go through life to deal with the ups and downs that are part of the everyday because your energy is getting depleted by these deficiencies in your exposome. And the things that should be feeding you, supporting you, adding to your pile of resources are not there or are not as strong as they could or should be. Now, the card that I drew from the aspects part of the deck comes from self efficacy, and it is the card for empowerment. So what you see on the card is the symbol for the solar plexus chakra, which is also associated with the sun or power, energy, and it's sort of shining through here. Self efficacy is all about believing that you can. This is the work of Bandura, and he studied how when we feel empowered by our environment or the support that we have, we can do what we set our mind to doing. So, if we believe we have the resources and the competency to be successful, we will be. If we don't believe that, we won't. It's like that famous quote by Henry Ford, and I tell my kids this all the time: you either believe you can do something or you can't. Either way, you're always right. That is self efficacy in a nutshell. It is associated with the fire element of feng shui, and fire is all about the spirit, the beliefs we have, the determination that we have. Fire is our energy, fire is our willpower. So, when we talk about self efficacy, we're really talking about how do we help somebody by putting environmental cues in their space that give them a sense of empowerment. How can they feel that they have control? How can they feel that they have agency and the ability to actively participate? Now, when we talk specifically about empowerment, that is defined as the process of becoming stronger and more confident, especially in controlling one's own life and claiming one's rights. And there's some really good studies out there on empowerment by John Petter, and he talks about it having several components. So, decision making. Do you feel that you get to decide or that you're being told what to do? Access to information. Do you understand the principles and the situations at play in the environment in which you're in? Or are you acting blindly? Autonomy. Are you actually the one whose decisions get to stick? Or is somebody going to come around and tell you you're not allowed to do that, or that decision isn't okay to make? Initiative and creativity. Are you being given that opportunity to express yourself, to explore things that interest you? Knowledge and skills. Are you being in an environment that promotes learning and allows you to use and leverage what you're learning and create value or not? And finally, responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. We learned that from Spider-Man, right? And it's true. When we get to see the consequences of our actions, that's how we learn. That's how we get better. That's how we get stronger. We fail forward. And that's an important part of empowerment too, is being able to make mistakes, to learn from them, to be the one who gets to have to claim, good or bad, whatever the outcomes are, that we did that. That is what creates empowerment. Now, let's think about how this can show up in space, putting the two cards together. So, in the socioeconomic exposome, as you can imagine, the more resources you have in the different categories we talked about, the more power you have, the more ability you have to take these actions, to make decisions, to get the information you need, to have the autonomy, to take the initiative, to use your knowledge and skills, to feel like you matter, and to have responsibility. What are the things in our environment that can help with that? Well, definitely our environment can put us at an advantage or a disadvantage. So if we're in an environment that isn't really conducive to our needs and we can't change that environment, we don't feel very empowered. If we're in an environment that doesn't allow us to personalize it, we don't feel as empowered. If we're in an environment that doesn't allow us to express ourselves, we don't feel very empowered. So we can think about things like how adjustable, flexible, movable are things like the furniture, the lighting, the sound systems. We can think about having built in opportunities for personal expression. So it might be things like the shelves, like I have behind me here, where you can put things that are an expression of yourself or your work. It can be display boards. It can be ways of having shout outs and recognition to people in the workplace or in a learning environment, or even your refrigerator, right? There's a lot there that says things to your family and friends. When we put something good up on the refrigerator, for example, how does that make our children feel? Makes them feel celebrated. We can think about access to information. And while as architects or interior designers, we don't control what information people are working with in a given environment, are we encouraging people to have access to computers? Are we building in the infrastructure? Are we building in spaces to put elements of learning, whether they are shelves for books or infrastructure for technology, a round table and everybody sits around it? Everybody is equal in power. If we have a rectangular table, we give more power to the person at the head of the table. Or we create conversation blocks where people are only really going to interact with the people that are right next to them and not the people that are a few seats away. That's going to take away some of that empowerment. How are we setting up a space? So, for example, a traditional classroom does not give a lot of autonomy to students. The seats face forward, the desk, the place of power is at the front, telling the students that they don't have any power and the teacher has all the power. Well, we're looking more at modern classroom designs that deconstruct that, that often don't even have a desk per se for the teacher, and that have a bunch of tables, and students are working more collaboratively. And the teacher's job is to move around and be empowering as opposed to lecturing. So that's one way that design is creating a dynamic of empowerment versus disempowerment, allowing people opportunities to sit in different postures in a workplace. The traditional desk that everything is assigned to you and you can't change much about it is giving way to workspaces where there might be lounges or cafes or other kinds of work setups that allow people to choose the setting that feels right to them in the moment. That's empowering. We can think about, for example, in an apartment building, how are we creating opportunities for people to feel safe in the building, to easily get to their unit, to express, even at their front entry, their personality? This is a big component in assisted living facilities or nursing homes. It's so important for that elderly person living there, that resident, to have that self expression, that empowerment. Studies have shown that when they do, they acclimate better, they strengthen their social network. So, going back to this socioeconomic exposome idea, and they generally tend to thrive more so than the people that don't get those opportunities. So, again, this is a great pairing. I love the way that the cards worked out, and we're exploring empowerment through the lens of the socioeconomic part of the exposome. If you want to continue learning, if this was helpful to you, make sure that you like and subscribe, and then you will get a notification so you won't miss a single episode that I do of this. And please leave your comments. Let me know what you're learning, how this is helping you. It really is important to me to share this knowledge and to make it easy to understand so that people can really talk about these issues that we often don't talk about, or make connections that we often don't make between our spaces and our well being. So, thanks so much for listening, and I will see you next time.